Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 2 of 2 of What If Deku Was God of the Sea. If you enjoy, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I don't really have much else to say. Make sure to check the links in the description for the Spotify, the Discord, the membership, whatever you want to check out. And yeah, that's all I really got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Izuku Midoriya and Asui are headed off to Gang Orca's agency, or at least to an extent his agency, because they begin working with Gang Orca and they begin honestly kind of developing new and amazing skills. But in terms of Izuku, he's not really feeling the benefits, not the way that Asui is feeling the benefits. Same thing with Gang Orca, actually. With having Izuku around, it seems like their power increasingly grows. They don't know exactly what this is all about, and Izuku, to an extent, doesn't really know what this is all about. But in all reality, it's because of where Izuku comes from. This is not a quirk. This is not your normal, typical powers. Izuku Midoriya has powers that are completely different than your ordinary powers. Izuku Midoriya has powers that are granted from, and, well, legitimately from, the actual sea itself. And the reality is, Izuku Midoriya's powers is not normal. They are not normal. They are the furthest thing from freaking normal. And Izuku Midoriya, well, he finds out pretty quick that this is the case, because his powers, the connection to the sea, is making heroes even stronger. At least the ones that are aquatic to an extent. Gang Orca and Asui feel in these effects insanely, and during their training sessions, Izuku gets quite a bit out of this in terms of training with, strong partners. But Gang Orca feels 2 to 3 times stronger than normal. And his effectiveness when actually being out there on the field is completely different. Like, it's a completely different hero. And after about 3 to 4 days of kind of training and 3 to 4 days of, going on, little like tours and missions and kind of looking around, watching and stuff like that, a lot of people start taking notice about how strong or much stronger Gang Orca has gotten, being able to do things that he normally handles or normally is able to deal with and does them a lot easier, which is something that a lot of people were not expecting and nobody really understands. But before you know it, their end of their own little internship would be over, and unfortunately, Izuku wouldn't be able to kind of continue working with Gang Orca because of something that occurred outside of UA and on an internship that was pretty unorthodox in terms of working with high-level future heroes in UA. Because normally UA students, they go and they work with some of the highest level heroes, but actually someone by the name of Tenya Ida, someone that Izuku is, pretty good friends with, actually went off to work with someone that is really low tier, a very normal-esque hero, and something happened and Tenya Ida was put in the hospital and is in massive critical condition. The condition he's in is borderline, well, on death's door, and everybody is extremely concerned about what's going on, what's happening, and honestly what could happen with Tenya Ida, and they're worried. He's insanely worried about what's happening and insanely worried about what's going on and what could happen and what's going on with Tenya Ida and himself. And it's a scary thing, but at the same time, it's not like much can be done with something that's already occurred. And the whole thing that occurred was that Tenya Ida got absolutely destroyed by the hero killer. Now, luckily enough, Todoroki and also Endeavor were there to stop the hero killer eventually, but it doesn't change the fact that they took the brunt of the attack. Like, there was some insane damage taken and some insane things that occurred during this portion of time. But Aizawa makes it very clear that yes, this is tragic, yes, this is horrible, but they can't just stop here and do nothing. So Aizawa tells them flat out tells them that they're going to have to do something, they're going to have to get the job done, and they're going to have to put their best foot forward. And that right there is everything that is going to be ahead of them. And that includes doing the final exam ASAP so they can start pushing toward becoming the heroes they want to be. And yes, of course, a lot of people are thinking and questioning, is this really the best time? Should we not like take a step back? Blah, blah, blah. But Aizawa tells them that if Tenya Ito was here, he'd be telling them to put that foot forward and push forward as much as possible. And this would lead them to studying, obviously, for their final exams, and then eventually being fully prepared for them, finishing the written portion, and then heading on to do the practical, in which Izuku Midoriya would get his chance to face off with an absolute insane hero in All Might, or the number one hero really in All Might, and he would be teamed up with Bakugo himself. And it would be an interesting fight, an interesting one, because of both of their powers, they clash so heavily, and without a good amount of water surrounding them, it makes it very difficult for Izuku to really do the things that he wants to do. But in terms of just full-on combat, Izuku is able to somewhat keep up. He's doing his thing, he's fighting, clashing, going back and forth with All Might, with Bakugo kind of doing some stupid BS. Obviously, we know Bakugo loves to mess things up, and we know Bakugo loves to try to get over his own head, and he would, get a bit over his head in terms of certain circumstances, and he would have to get Bakugo out of those circumstances. But with Izuku's powers, he starts really unveiling some interesting techniques that a lot of people didn't even know that he could possibly do. And those techniques involve, obviously, utilizing water in a more offensive way, even though he has no water surrounding him. And on top of that, even utilizing some other elements as well, utilizing bits of electricity or lightning. But of course, it's limited, like really limited. So he's really relying on his overwhelming strength to kind of push him through it. And it eventually leads them to, figuring things out in a certain way in terms of the fight that would eventually give them a slight upper hand and allow them to escape through the quote-unquote, area that they're able to escape from. Now, with that escape being done in the wind, and them actually passing this portion of the final exam, or the practical portion of the final exam, it is now time for them to head off to the obvious area in the forest training camp. And this forest training camp is perfect for Izuku, because this is a time where he's going to be able to train, hone his skills, and really get as much out of it as he possibly can. And he even begins to kind of stay around these water-like areas, this lake-like area, that he just absorbs as much strength, as much power, and as much anything he possibly can in this specific area, believing that this area in itself is going to help him be that much more powerful. This area in itself will allow him to gain more and more strength. And as he's doing this, as he's really kind of the days would meld together, and as days would become almost a week long or even 2 weeks long, eventually Izuku would even get a grasp on some of the other ocean-like beings that are within the area. And even this lake itself has beings within it that seem to be unknown for years on end, almost like they were prehistoric. Now, with that said, Izuku doesn't know too much, but believes that whatever's underneath the water is something that he needs to keep into account at all times, because you never know how important the help from those creatures could possibly be. And well, let's just say Izuku would have a ton of time during this forest training camp, getting better, getting stronger, getting more acclimated all of these things, and it would all be massively helpful for Izuku Midoriya. And let's just say that everyone's going to be very glad that he had all this time to train, all this time to prepare, because when they head home, when they head back to UA, something that they didn't expect would happen. And what would happen is a large number of Nomus, a ton of them, would come surging through the cities, attacking every single person in sight. I mean, legitimately attacking as many people as you possibly can tell. And what happens is what they want is to draw out All Might and catch him off guard. But with everything ensuing, with everything happening, the kids that are on the bus, or the UA students who are on the bus, it seems like they don't have a choice here. They're going to have to fight. And Izuku tells Aizawa, tells everybody that they need to get to the water. In which, of course, this is not the easiest thing to happen, but he tells them they have to get to the water, and that's the only thing that he can think of right now. Because guess what? If things don't start cooling off, if things don't chill out, and if things don't slow down, the heroes all around them might just be injured to a degree, or they won't be able to save many of them at all. And Izuku makes that very, very known, and Aizawa tells them that he's going to take Izuku by himself, and they're going to see what this is all about. And Izuku Midoriya heads over there, and as the Nomus are crashing all around them, as all these creatures seem to be awoken out of a state that they're not ready to actually be serving, their quote-unquote master in All for One. All it is to just make some noise. That's all they're trying to do. All they're trying to do is make sure that they are the perfect distraction. But Izuku hits the water, and when he does, he feels power, something surging, and then eventually he hears something. He hears bubbling from underneath the surface of the water, something coming from a very, very, very deep part of that said water. And as it approaches the top, and as it gets to the very top of that water, well, Izuku Midoriya sees it, and he sees this giant Leviathan. A giant Leviathan creature that he points in one direction, and it seems like he sends that Leviathan straight toward the cities. Not to hurt the people, but to take down the Nomus in one foul swoop. As the water would even wave over the buildings, it seems like there's so much control within the power that Izuku has that the water doesn't even hurt the buildings or even the people. And same thing with the Leviathan. The only thing that it's going after is these disgusting creatures known as the Nomu. And as this is ensuing, as everything is happening, everybody is screaming. But then the terror of what is happening, everything, all the absolute terror that people are going through, they realize they're not being hurt. They're not being touched. They're completely fine. And it shocks them so much that they just stand there in shock, thinking, what the hell is going on? What is this and what is happening? And Izuku consumes basically the entirety of Japan in water, but it makes it so that these people that are all around, they can still breathe. They're completely fine. They have no idea what this means or what's even going on. And All for One is in shock, thinking, no, this is too early. This isn't what he's supposed to be able to do. Not yet. And it seems like All for One had some ideas and some kind of expectations for Izuku Midoriya, and he wanted Izuku and his powers for something that obviously was going to be massively nefarious, but at the same time, it seems like he was thrown off his rhythm, realizing that this is all bad and it's going even worse before you know it. And before you know it, Izuku Midoriya has cleaned up a ton of the city and has given an opening for All Might to defeat All for One in one foul swoop. And Izuku Midoriya, well, he's heralded as a absolute hero, someone who took it upon himself to shut this all down. But there's a lot of people out there that believe quite the opposite, that he's a rogue, that he controls things, sentient or not, something different, He controls things that aren't supposed to be controlled. He created and allowed a giant monstrous creature known as the Leviathan to run rampant on the city. But that's not what happened. The Leviathan had nothing to do with anything, did not hurt anybody, did not destroy anything at all. But still, they point at it, they say monster, and they run afraid. And Izuku Midoriya realizes that the people around him, they're not his people. Because he realizes that the sea, the water that is all around him, the water that surrounds him, is more important to him than anything. And before you know it, choices would need to be made, because Izuku would be sitting there realizing and thinking that these people will never accept him. Japan will never accept him, at least not the masses. The masses refuse to believe that Izuku should be allowed to get a provisional license, should be allowed to become a hero. And even some throughout the hero associations believe he should be a full-fledged hero now. But that gets shut down quicker than you could possibly even imagine. It gets shut down so fast, and it makes it very, very obvious that they're terrified of him. They want nothing to do with it, and they want nothing to do with the idea that Izuku Midoriya somehow is some sort of, proper hero. And they make it clear that it's not something that they want, and it's not something that they truly want going on. And even some heroes, yes, they stand on the side of Izuku Midoriya. A lot of the main heroes, high-tier heroes, some of the highest above, they believe that Izuku is the hero that they all want him to be. But the masses of Japan believe that someone who controls a monster might just be a monster himself. And this would lead Izuku to taking a more of a backseat role for a little while, with obviously the UA and stuff like that. And Izuku would have choices to make. What does he do? What does he surely do? Does he just continue life and continue, just doing class stuff and, doing this and that on the chance that he might just get the chance at being a hero? Or does he leave it all behind and just go live within the water amongst the creatures that he knows so well, the ones that brought him here in the first place? Maybe there's a reason why they act this way. Maybe there's a reason why the people of Japan feel this way. And maybe he should oblige. Maybe Izuku Midoriya should oblige in their feelings and should oblige in the way they are acting. And Izuku Midoriya thinks about this for a second and decides that, yeah, that's what he's going to do. He's going to oblige. And he decides that he talks to his mother, he talks to Inko Midoriya, speaks about this to many other people as well, and he says that he's not going to be a hero, but he's not going to sit around and just wait. He's not going to just sit around and do nothing. He's going to go see the people that trust him and the people that love him, people that have the connection with him, and that is the people of the water. The people within the water, or the creatures within the water, those are his people. Those are the people that will stand by him and keep others safe. And that he tells Aizawa and many others and everybody in UA, the teachers alike, that if they need him, if they ever need him, please do not hesitate to call. Do not hesitate to walk up to the water and speak his name. Do not hesitate to do any of it. But just know that for now, he's going to be living amongst the creatures and the beings that care for him more than he even cares for them. And as selfish as that sounds, he tells them that they make him feel like he's the god of the sea, in which this would lead him to eventually leaving. Yue would obviously, try to resist this idea that Izuku was just going to leave, and they try to get him to not. But of course, he made up his decision. His mother stays in contact as much as possible, but he even offers her a way to, kind of live down there as well. That they're going to create something down there, create a city, maybe something along the lines of an Atlantis to a certain extent. And of course, Izuku is thinking that he could truly keep her safe and they could live life without worries, but also tells his own mother that she can do as she wishes and that she can visit anytime, anywhere, whatever she wants to do. And he would go on throughout the rest of his life, at least he thought initially, like this. But the thing is, things aren't over yet. Not even close. Because Izuku is underneath that water. He creates his city. He creates the obvious, city of Atlantis that he so wanted to for so long. And he realizes that this is his place. This is his home. But before you know it, after months and months and months of no contact, from Yue and the hero side of the world, he hears rumblings. He hears the word. And he hears his name. And he arises from that water. Bubbles obviously coming out everywhere. And he walks up. His head peeks out of the water as he sees the face of Aizawa and many other heroes. And they ask him for his help. They ask him to please help them. That there's something that needs to be taken down. And they need his help. In which Izuku says that, of course, he'll do what he can. He'll do his best. And, they'll handle what needs to be handled. And they explain that there's a creature that they don't believe they can stop. And he wants to basically get rid of the prison and allow All For One and Shigaraki to run rampant once again and allow the League of Villains to revitalize what they once had. And Izuku Midoriya shakes his head and says that if that's it, he'll handle what needs to be handled. Just tell him what time and what place. And they give him the information, and Izuku Midoriya awaits that time. And as they're waiting, as the rumblings through the cities begin, and as Gigantomachia and an army of villains begin to surge, Izuku Midoriya and his army of what he would call Atlanteans, would arrive. And it would walk the streets with creatures from lobster crabs to anything that could, that have anything, any creatures, from prehistoric to current. Izuku walks alongside them, and some people out there, they still shudder. They still fear it. They still think that's gross, disgusting, and terrifying. But Izuku Midoriya, without a second thought, would hold his ground against a creature like Gigantomachia, with prehistoric creatures like the Leviathan and many others stopping in its wake. And as all this ensues, as this huge battle ensues, yes, buildings are broken, places are shattered, windows and things are shattered and broken and burnt and destroyed. But Izuku Midoriya knows that he's fighting for the safety of everybody, every single person from Japan, everywhere else, and everything in between. And he knows that everything needs sacrifice. So after Gigantomachia is felled, after the villains that were trying to get Shigaraki out of prison are stopped, it seems like everything goes quiet. The water stops rumbling and the water just sits there in its wake, and it seems as if everybody thinks, was it terrifying? Was he the villain? Is he a monster just like the ones that he controls and he serves? And they wonder, is he? And a lot of people, they don't know, even after what they just saw. But a lot of heroes stand up for him. A lot of heroes say that without him, every single one of them would be dead. Every last one of them, every single person here would be gone in the dust and forever gone. Families alike would be destroyed, and Izuku did it all for them, and they still shun him. they still shun him and refuse to accept him. And Izuku says, and he kind of waves every single creature off, allowing them to go within the water once again, go back home. And Izuku tells them that he may never be one of them. He may never be accepted by them. But those who matter, they will accept him. And he hopes that one day everyone else will as well. And before an answer could even happen, he would walk back, right back to the water where he is accepted, and he would go silent. And what would happen in the future? Would the heroes and the people eventually accept somebody who would talk and speak and control monsters that they themselves are terrified of? Or will they eventually, will they get over that hurdle, or will they leave him where he's at? But nonetheless, Izuku Midoriya is exactly where he wants to be, in a place where he can help, and in a place where he can be exactly what he was meant to be from the day he showed up on the shores and the beaches of Japan. But with that said, that is the end of this What If. If you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I'm going to try to get content out to y'all a little bit more consistently. Sorry about it being so inconsistent, but I hope you guys enjoyed nonetheless. If you did, like I said, show some love. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.